Okay, let's start talking about the problem. Okay, we'll talk about alternative alphabets. Alphabet is a set of action exhibited by the scenarios and properties. New scenarios and properties appear that may have new alphabets that were not considered before. Alternative alphabet. The alphabet before the creation of the behavioral model is different than the alphabet after the creation. To include the new alphabet on the behavioral model, synthesis algorithm need to restart in the current approaches. Let's talk about concepts, important concepts. First, when we talk about alphabet, we mean that the set of actions that is used both in both scenarios and properties to describe a system. If we assume that alpha is the alphabet that was used during the creation of the behavioral model and alpha 2 is the alphabet alpha 1 union any new actions discovered after the creation of the behavioral model, we call alpha 1 alpha 2 are alternative alphabets. Communication alphabet for a scenario or for a property is a set of events that are exhibited by a scenario or a property, and superset alphabet is the set of all events that are recognized by all scenarios and properties. When we try to modify um, when we try to modify the behavioral model of properties or scenarios, we have four cases. The first case, if the new event or new action was discovered in the scenarios and we need to modify the partial behavioral model of the scenarios, and if it was discovered in the scenarios and we need to modify the partial behavioral model of properties. The third one, if it is discovered in the properties and we need to modify the partial behavioral model of scenarios, and the last one is if it is the same as the if it's found in discovered in properties and we need to modify the behavioral model of properties. Modifying the partial behavior model of properties, we introduce approach to modify the behavior model instead of recreating them when alternative alphabet occurs. This approach depends on the characteristic of the behavioral model, which is used to identify the suitable place of the new transition. So the our approach in this case, we are going to modify the partial behavioral model of properties. We will use the characteristic of the behavioral model uh, transitions, characteristic of the behavioral model, the transition characteristic in the behavioral model. The property alphabet, as we said, okay, the property as alphabet is the actual set of events used by property, the communicating alphabet. This means, and it's possible, the each property will have its own different communication alphabet. Therefore, the alternative alphabet for a set of properties exists in many cases. When we try to describe the properties, we have two types of temporal logic. The first one is called Lambert, the temporal logic introduced by Lambert, and the other type is the temporal logic, the extended temporal logic. The main difference between these two types is the using of the X operators, and we saw that using the first temporal logic make it is easier and more practical to uh, implement and describe properties, while the other one does not do that. Therefore, there were, therefore, we propose the using of the first one. Tangent in the behavioral model of properties. The original of the tangent in the behavioral model of properties is either its communicating alphabet, which is the source of allowed transition, or the superset alphabet and communicating alphabet, which is the maybe transition, a source of the maybe transition. The difference between superset and communicating. Observation.